got you. I'll cue you.
Oh, that's so nice. No, you just do it.
Hey. Hey.
No. You just do the.
Shh. Welcome to the Brook Hill Podcast.
Do I have to start now?
This is gonna be good.
All right. Welcome to the Brook Hill Podcast. This is life, legacy, and leadership, but with the girls. this
Yes.
time. Yeah. We called it Girls Night around the couch, even though there's no
Yes.
couch.
Right.
and
Table.
Microphones and headphones and all the things.
Yeah.
All right. We have pretty much the best people in the whole wide world. here.
Oh,
I
I couldn't
honored.
agree more.
But we have
So
Lily
true.
Rawls here. She is a queen.
yes.
I'm obsessed with
Hey.
her. Olivia Pate, also a queen. Amazing. And then Caroline Worthen, a third
number
queen.
three.
Queen number 3. And my name's Maggie Esther, and we are here at Brook Hill this summer. And we're just going to get to talk life. And I'm excited because we have a lot of different perspectives and a lot of
So
different
true.
stories. But I think that we are ready to dive in. We're going to start us off with just talking about friends, which obviously I know that Olivia and Lily, y'all are like best friends.
Best friends, my girl.
But we're gonna just get to talk about friends today. So why don't Liv, you and Lily start out with like, tell us about your friendship. What do you look
I
for
love
in a
this
friend?
is a good one, Maggie.
What do you look for in a friend?
was-
How did y'all like become besties? I mean, that's
Okay.
kind of a good
Okay,
story.
you tell him. You tell
you
him.
want me to start?
Yeah, you tell
Okay,
him.
I'll do the
From the
honors.
very beginning.
So our dads were
Right.
actually senior counselors together.
Amazing.
My dad was a Mustang. Her dad was a Walker,
Walker.
right?
They were
And so
neighbors.
they were neighbors,
Classy.
much like us. So fun.
Much
And so that friendship
good
just
deal.
carried out. Don't want to mess up the details because he's listening, so I don't really know. But that friendship
the
just
less
carried out.
important story, right?
Yes.
Y'all
we're
are
getting
the-
to our friendship.
Yes,
So
it's
that's all I
your
know where
story,
it
not their
began.
story.
So that is that. But then their friendship just kept on going. And then Lily is exactly 9 months older than me.
Yeah.
And so
Awesome.
she was born, and then my parents found out they were pregnant with me, and they were actually the first people that they called.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because, just at the beginning, not wanting to tell many people. So they called them and was like, oh my gosh, like Kevin and Rachel were pregnant.
Yeah.
And so then I was born March 27th, and Lily was exactly 9 months old.
So like from birth. y'all
From
did
birth.
that.
Yeah.
From
birth.
So that was kind of that. Well, then it came camp time, and obviously, you know how parents do. They were like, we're going to force them to be friends.
Right.
And so we started out as day campers to complete strangers. Girl lives in Virginia. You know,
Yes.
never-
Yes. I was
yeah.
gonna mention that.
I don't think
yeah.
we knew each other
We
until we
didn't.
met that summer.
We have so many baby pictures together, which is so funny.
Yeah.
Because like
That's
we
really
were
cool.
long distance.
Yeah.
Like what in the world?
how did we do that? So
But-
I guess they met up.
Yeah,
and
so our
like,
dads are just long distance friends,
Yeah.
and then our moms are long distance
Yeah.
friends, and then
Yeah,
so when
and-
it was my first time to come to camp,
yeah.
I show up, and they're like, "Here's Olivia," and you're like
Yeah.
crazy and
Yeah.
insane,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
And Lily's
I was
just
so
staring at me.
not Olivia.
I used to be so
Whatever.
shy. I don't know if y'all know this. I was the most quiet.
She didn't speak.
I didn't speak to anyone.
No word.
Really?
You
Yeah.
guys, God changed me. I'll just
Yeah.
say that. But I was
wait to
so
get to
quiet.
that.
I was so timid. And so I met Olivia and I was like, ooh, you're a good person to follow around. like,
talk for me.
Oh,
Don't have
oh.
to speak.
I don't have to think.
Dynamic duo.
Ideal
My
friend right
opinion.
there.
Oh, I could follow. So
Even
I
for you.
followed
Literally.
her around
I got to
everywhere. I was, you got to yap, and I
And-
got to follow and listen.
And
I
then
was
you
like,
did
yes.
my hair. Lily knew how to French
I
braid.
did her hair every day.
Loved going to
Oh.
camp with Lily.
To be honest, that's everything.
And
right?
she's
When you-
yapping
it's
while
what
I'm
you're
doing her
looking
hair, and I'm
for.
just like,
I'm just yapping, and she's just
mhm.
French braiding my hair
Yeah,
away.
every day.
It just worked. And then I would say, which it's literally a miracle
Mhm.
because with those kinds of friendships, it's like
Yeah.
I hope it works out.
Right.
And
Right.
then,
Sure.
You
It's
know,
camp
but
friend.
It's camp
Mhm.
friend,
Mhm.
but really the Lord just like
Right.
made it work.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
our
Yeah.
friendship,
Yeah.
our personalities,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they just ended up
Mhm.
working. And so some of my God's greatest gifts to me are
Yeah.
my parents' friends' children.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
That's actually
generational
so cool.
friendships are
Most-
so real.
At my wedding,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all the women who were oh my gosh, all the people who were on my wedding party, their moms and my mom were friends. And so they were all there too, helping us get ready. So it was just really cool and really fun. But anyway, that's a little bit of a rabbit trail. But we went as day campers and then went to camp every single year together. We wrote letters to each other for a while. Our moms would like help facilitate that for sure. And then I would say our like graduate summer, we finally just really like truly connected. Like we would always just be like, so how's life? And just going to camp together and all the things. And then obviously I traveled up to help her travel down because she's in Virginia.
3 years ago.
I remember y'all posting on Instagram.
Yes.
And that was the first time I like kind of knew who Lily was. And I was like, who's Lily Rolls?
Yeah.
I was like,
Who's Lily Rolls?
She seems awesome.
And so we traveled down. We were like, I can't believe our mommies and daddies are letting us drive cross country.
How old were you? That was 3 years ago.
We were like 16.
Was Will there?
That's crazy. We went to Will's house.
I flew up to Virginia.
I feel like Will has also in the story.
Will is always kind of there. I flew up to Virginia.
Us and Will were
campers.
campers.
I got me there. So
we all went to camp together.
I didn't know that.
Okay. Yes.
Will
kind of came in the picture because
like
Sienna and them were connected. They were all friends. And so that like last summer we were all kind of campers together.
I always wondered how Will was involved.
I agree.
Yeah, he was there as a camper, but then that year I came to get you, I flew up, so got on one plane, got to another plane, and then was in Virginia for just a couple of days. Best trip of my life.
So
got to
fun.
see
Right.
Liberty. Your dad gave me the tour. It was beautiful.
Of Liberty.
Then we got in the car and just scooted our way to Tennessee because it's halfway where Will is. And Will's oldest sister is married, has some adorable children. And so we stayed there. And we like had a little bonfire, hung out with Will. It was just like the craziest experience ever.
It's halfway from Arkansas and Virginia. Is Will was in Tennessee. So it was very convenient.
It worked
We
out
only drove 8 hours to
well.
Will's house and then spend the night. And then we drove
Only
with
8
Will.
hours.
Will was in the car beside us, like
we
to
followed
camp
Will.
our first year all summer.
Okay, so that was like the start. That
Yes.
was kind
Yes.
of when y'all became besties, and obviously
Absolutely.
wedding, y'all were tight
Absolutely.
forever, y'all go on trips together, all the things.
Absolutely.
Well, Liv, you said something that like made me think about something that I feel like all girls want to talk about because I
Absolutely.
definitely struggled with this in high school and probably in college, but like navigating when you and maybe a lifelong friend
Absolutely.
are no longer friends. You know, I feel like we
Absolutely.
always have those people in your lives that are like, you know, you were in kindergarten together and your moms are best friends. Like there are moments, and I remember, I mean, honestly, if we're just being honest, like high school, college, you learn so much about your personality.
Yes.
Like, Lily was talking about Enneagram earlier, so we're gonna get to
Absolutely.
that. But like, I don't know, just the way to navigate rejection and drama
Absolutely.
and frustrations, and honestly, sometimes just personality conflicts.
Absolutely.
Right, is just like that running into each other.
Absolutely.
Like, Caroline, do you have thoughts on that? I'm like, I feel like
Well, my like best friend in elementary school, we went to camp together, grew up together,
right.
and then junior year of high school ghosted me out of nowhere.
Of course.
Oh, the ghosting.
And it like hurt
Yeah,
because
it's real.
Absolutely.
when I mean like out of nowhere, radio silence, we had spent the whole weekend together, and I
Like from a movie.
yes,
Yeah.
straight from a movie, was very thrown off by it, didn't know
Totally.
what was happening. I now know there was a lot more going on to the story,
Right. Sure.
and she knew if we were hanging out, I would know something was off, and she didn't want to talk
Totally.
about it.
Fair.
But I had to learn all of that through her mom
Wow.
Of course.
and not her. And like my now college roommate and best friend since 5th grade also was there the whole time, and
Sure.
it was great, but it was really hard because I was like, oh, she was like my best friend. We did
Yes.
everything together.
Yeah.
Lived down the street from me,
Crazy.
and it
So
turned in from
hard.
like carpooling to school together
Yeah.
to like, hey,
Yeah.
at
That's
school.
crazy.
Do
It's
y'all think we have
painful.
this like identity crisis when that happens? Like,
I know I did.
I
I mean,
like, I don't know
That's
about
so
you,
real.
but like
Yeah.
I did. I was like, oh, who am I without
Yeah.
like
Wow.
my like left hand,
Best
like
friend.
literally.
Absolutely.
So
Well, that
Totally.
was one thing. I think it changed my entire perspective. I think we had a very deep conversation. We always just call and we like lay everything out
Yeah.
in life, and then we solve all those
Totally.
problems, and then
Yes.
we're
Right.
like, okay, see you in a week.
Okay,
like to
love you,
solve
bye.
the
Yep.
world's problems.
Yes.
Like, bye. See you later. Like we talk for hours, but we were talking, and you know, we were talking about her roommates for next year, and Lily was just
Yes.
trying to work
Yes.
some of that out.
And
which
this was
you can
recently.
Give, yes, you can
Yeah.
give this story. Obviously, I don't want to steal that. But you said that there are right now people, and then there are forever people. And at the beginning of life, I feel like that's something that nobody talks about, because
Right.
I had a best friend all
Yes.
throughout
Yeah.
high school,
Yes.
and then when I left my high school, it
Yeah.
was like, okay,
You thought
there
that was a forever
I thought that was
person.
a forever person, and then it turns out it just wasn't. And
Yeah.
so they were somebody that God had sent me for that time in my life,
exactly.
but they weren't my forever friend. You know, and also like there's so much like that has to line up, and I feel like I did this in my relationship with Ethan, where it was like, okay, do our morals line up? Are we going the same way in life?
Exactly.
And are we going to be in each other's lives? You know,
Right.
are we going the same direction? You know, they always talk about, you'll run this race of life, and you look next to each other, next to yourself, and who else is running with you?
Yes.
Right.
And she just wasn't. And so I feel like in high school especially, and then to college, and then to real life, there are people who you are running with, and you look next to your side, and it's like, okay, like they're not there anymore.
No.
And it's painful, and it hurts you because you know where you're going. And so it's hard to see them.
You want to take them with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we all have that.
Absolutely.
You navigate that. When I was in college, there was a friend that we were living one way, and I came to her and I was like, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. I love you. You do you.
Absolutely.
I like am living for Jesus, and this is how it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And that was not the case for her. And it's like you want to save people, right? We want to like come in and rescue our friends, but at the end of the day, it's like they're their own people, and they can make their own choices, and your forever friends are those ones that those things line up. Similar to a marriage. Like it's crazy, but that's such a great comparison.
Friendships,
For sure. That's so good.
No, it was so true, but
that's what I called you. I called you and I was like, Liv, like these people that are in my life right now, they're my right now friends. That's what I call them.
And
I figured that out
know
this
that
year.
about them.
Yes,
like
and I was like,
we're saying.
I love them.
Yes.
And we live together.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna like just like switch rooming. I'm not like I'm gonna live with them because God put them in my life for this season of my life.
Absolutely.
What can they teach me? What is God trying to teach me to give to them, to love them?
Yes.
Am I gonna live with them next year? No.
Yeah.
Are they gonna be in my wedding? No.
That's really what spurred this conversation.
It's okay.
I was like, is so-and-so gonna be in your wedding? And she was like, she's a right now friend.
No, she's my right now friend.
And she's in your life right now, and that's okay to
know.
And
I love her. But you know what I mean? So I've just, through this year, my right now friends.
Yeah.
So
good.
For sure.
And I think that what Lily, you just said is it's so mature because it's expectations.
Wow.
Okay. I think a lot of, we get into a lot of drama and we feel very hurt.
Yes.
With friends and with anybody, with my parents, with relationships, whatever.
Absolutely.
But like, especially with friends, we get so hurt when our expectations are off.
Come on.
And it's like Lily's not expecting her friends right now to be, you know, the ones that she tells her kids about and what
exactly
her wedding, because those people really are, you know, those are your ride or dies. They're going to do anything for you. And not everyone has to be that type of friend. And I think setting realistic expectations for relationships in your life, like
that's so good.
game changers. Well, it's like what you're saying. You're like, that's so good. I'm like, that's what you're doing. Like, you're literally doing that. That's amazing. That's awesome. I love that.
Absolutely. Caroline, how did you work through that? Like with her just dropping you and you having to work through that. Like,
tough.
how did you do that?
It's hard to like navigate those emotions.
And you were younger.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, I said it's junior year, and I'm now realizing it's definitely senior year because we also then moved to Conway, from Little Rock to Conway. And so it was like that got put on the back burner. It was kind of like, okay, well, now I'm driving 45 minutes to school. You know, the world was still shut down, so I was only going to school 2 days a week in person.
Forgot about that.
And so it was more like, okay, that really stung.
Yeah.
But now I'm in a location where we're being forced to stay with our family all the time, hang out with them. I'm also in a location that's 45 minutes from all of my friends. So the late night Sonic runs aren't happening. So I'm with my family anyway.
True.
Wow.
So I was about,
the Lord.
That's what I'm saying. Like I navigated through the fact that my circumstances kind of made it easier because everyone else was having to live similarly. So I mean, the Lord kind of just paved over it for me.
And probably rewrote some of those, like the value issues. I feel like whenever you go through a heartbreak, even with a friend, it's like you have to go back to God. Dude, help me. Oh my gosh.
It was very lonely because then also, once again, being far, even though it was literally 45 minutes. But like living, that seemed very much a long way away. But it was a lot more like time alone. And so then I ended up being in my word so much more, which was great going into the freshman year college.
Absolutely.
And like I brought my best friend, like we roomed together, still are, and but it made that all just that transition so much easier.
Oh my gosh.
It's so weird how like you can be going through something and you think it's the worst. Like, oh, we moved to Conway. Like, why are we doing this? And you're questioning God.
Exactly.
And then on this side of things, you're like, whoa, the Lord did
Do
that. Like, look what the Lord did to get me out
exactly.
of this. Like,
or
it could
like
have been so
I
much
had
worse.
to go through that to get here.
That's
like without that thing that I was really frustrated about
Absolutely.
in the moment.
Yeah,
exactly. I would not be here.
Right. Exactly.
Which I feel like that kind of segues. I want like Lily to jump in. We're going to talk about personalities.
Absolutely.
But like I feel like sometimes friendships are really hard to navigate, especially when you have different personalities. And I, with all of that being said, where I am today, I could not be without being like my personality being challenged.
Yes.
Wow. Come on.
And you're not challenged without people who are different than you.
That's
exactly.
And so Lily, talk about. I know you wanted to talk about Enneagram. We were talking about it earlier. And I
love the Enneagram.
We won't talk about anything else if we start on
no, me and that's what I said. Me and Liv will talk about it, and we won't quit
for days. All we talk about.
You set a timer.
Okay, 5 minutes.
No, I love the Enneagram, guys. It has helped me so much in my relationships and my friendships with everyone, with every single person.
Well, what's your Enneagram?
Okay,
let's go around.
Yes, that's good.
I am an Enneagram number 9, wing 1.
Okay.
So it's called the peacemaker. And then the one is like the perfectionist.
And you're speaking like so like peaceful.
Oh, am I? Good.
Yes.
Good.
Peacemaker. Me and Liv are like yelling.
Yeah, y'all get so excited.
Okay, so you're a peacemaker. Liv, what's your Enneagram?
I'm a 6, wing 7.
Okay.
So I'm the loyalist mixed with the enthusiast.
Yep.
If you
Checks
will,
out.
Checks
out. Makes
a
lot of sense.
I'm a bit enthusiastic.
Oh,
if you're watching.
If you're watching live.
Do you know yours?
I do know mine. I'm an 8 wing 9.
Okay.
So
Spicy.
Challenger meets peacemaker.
That is crazy.
And I think it's a very healthy balance of both at this point in my life.
No, literally. I love working with like the 9 wing 8 or the 8 wing 9 because they're so different.
Yes.
So
They're so
have
different.
Those like 2 parts of you.
Yes, I say my 8 comes out and then my 9 feels bad.
Oh, stop.
It, like,
That's so
back and,
funny.
Yes, like I'll be very blunt and then it's like, I'm actually really sorry. That was too blunt.
Stop, that's so funny.
Crazy conflict within.
Maggie, tell us.
Yep, that is.
Yes.
I have a little bit of that too, of the inner conflict. I'm a 3, which is the achiever.
Yep.
And a lot of 3s that I've met are 3 wing 2s, and I'm actually a 3 wing 4.
Okay.
Which is like I have not met a lot of 3 wing 4s. I'm not trying to be like
friend
I'm
is
special.
You're different.
But
You're set apart.
Like, they're just very uncommon. And the 4 is I think the individualist.
Yeah.
So they're very like creative. So the 4 is very like they want to be super authentic.
Yes, absolutely.
And a 3 is like not very authentic because they want success and they want to be appear like they want to appear a certain way. So they like kind of like butt heads because there's sometimes where I'm like, well, I have to appear this way. So I go do something and then it's like, well, then my 4 is like angry because it's like that wasn't real. Like
exactly.
It's like
so
you're
funny.
8 and 9.
Yes,
like,
the argument.
Yes,
not real.
So
okay.
Funny.
Let's talk about how like where in your friendships have you had a friend that's different and they have like challenged you, and not like a bad challenge, but like a healthy challenge of like how have they helped you grow? How have they revealed something to you about yourself of that opposition a little bit that happens with different friendships?
I think my best friend, she's actually a 3-4, so
let's go.
But we met through a mutual friend, and we're like, we're not gonna be friends. I don't know why we were so like dead set on
on not being friends.
That's
crazy.
It
wasn't like we just thought we wouldn't get along.
Yeah.
And
you're
so
like, we don't even need to try.
Yes.
It's not gonna work.
But like we were sitting doing homework one night, everyone else was being loud, so we removed ourselves because I was like, I need to put my head down work. She did too. But then somehow we like dove into conversation about both of our testimonies, and we're like in the middle of our stew. Like everyone is around us, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to talk about this here. This is too many people. Yep. And so we then went to the Gerd and Sonic because the Arkadelphia one was broken. And
of course, if you're from Arkadelphia,
you know.
You know.
But like neither of us are very vulnerable people, but that 4 in her did come out a little bit, wanting to push on the emotions, which she's not normally. This is very much like the Lord anointed this entire conversation.
Whoa, that's crazy.
But we like spilled our entire testimonies. Like when I tell you, I barely know her. I don't know.
Which is crazy because you're not even a super open person.
No, not at all.
Like, I don't know Caroline, but Caroline's not. You're just like vulnerability
is my biggest fear.
Wow.
Crazy.
I don't like it. It's not. But for some reason, like, it was just peaceful in that car, and we both had the mindset of we're not leaving until we have shared everything.
Wow.
And I mean, every detail of our stories was covered. The parts that we had never even shared with anyone, and the alignment in them. Okay. Like, she's a year younger than me, and everything that I had walked through was a year delayed with her.
Wow. Wow.
And so it was like, okay, wow. And then that friendship started with depth. And
wow, that's cool.
But we're very different. Okay. Very different.
So in what ways are you different? How has that challenged you?
She is a lot more quiet. I'm not like super loud, but I am a lot more energetic consistently than she is in public settings. And it butts heads and like when we want to do something together sometimes. And so we've learned how to coexist because our schedules do not line up at all. Life does not line up. But it's like growing to learn how to, okay, I want to see you and I want to spend time with you and I want to grow this relationship. So we're going to have to hardcore work around the school schedule, the work schedule. Totally. I mean, she works in Little Rock and we live in Arkadelphia. And so it was very growing to learn. She pushes me in a lot of, like, vulnerability is one of the biggest ones. She's like, I know something's wrong. I know something's wrong, so we're gonna sit in silence until you tell me.
Whoa.
And like, she will. No. We will sit in silence, and I'm stubborn.
She's a little stubborn, and you're a little stubborn.
So, but no, it's been like she's awesome, but no, very different.
So cool.
That's interesting.
I love how that the Lord like ordained that to happen.
Oh, very much. Like we consistently are like, I thankful for you, and I will never not say it because. I don't know how else. Like we would have actually been friends other than the Lord.
Right, absolutely.
That's so true. Like people who you are different than, you know, the Bible says iron sharpens iron.
Totally. Yes.
And so it's like when they're doing that, it's clashing together. And so it doesn't
hard.
Growth comes with conflicts. Like
with
friendships. Like there have been things where I'm like, oh, Lily's right about that. Like we literally were having, this wasn't even like a thing or like a personality thing. We were just having a conversation. And I was like, no, like, which neither one of us are very confrontational. That 6 and that 9. So we're both being like very low key.
You meet us?
Like we're also both like, I'm right. Like,
we were like
I'm
I was
right.
like, no, Lily, like, I know.
Like, no, baby, no.
I'm like, no, girl, like, love you, but I know you're wrong.
I remember this conversation.
And it turns out we were both wrong.
We were right.
At the end of it, we found out, and like, we kind of had some of it right. And we were both like laughing hysterically because we were like, that was so stupid. But it was like, we just came about it a different way. And so with friendship and even with my marriage, I told my mom the other day, I said, there's so much give and take with this marriage thing. I was like, don't know that I love that part. And she was like, girl.
She said, welcome to it.
Like, it's better,
welcome.
right?
Heart you, like, well, but it's so true. Like, there's so much growth that comes with those conversations.
It is.
And with friendships, and I think oftentimes, especially our kinds of personalities, we run from that. Like, when conflict comes up, I sprint the other way. But in fact, like, I've been trying to teach myself, like, okay, take that head on. Like, you're trying to learn some growth, some large growth. You know, your biggest, it's literally biblical. Your biggest victory comes after your
like a trial.
Yes, biggest trial or your biggest war or whatever it is. And I try to tell myself that when going through difficult things, but it's not easy in the moment to know, but it's so worth it on the other side. And so with friendships, with everything, like iron sharpens iron, iron sharpens iron.
It does.
This is good.
That's so funny. And me and Maggie were talking about that the other day.
Literally.
Because you were like, I don't sugarcoat anything. And I'm like, I sugarcoat
There's so much
everything.
Explain the bows.
I said, EK was talking. She was like, I don't put bows on anything. And I was like, ooh, I put a bow on the top. I put a bow on the side. You open it up and there's a bow inside the gift. There's a bow on the gift. I love a good sugarcoat bow.
Yes.
I don't. That's my fear. I don't want anyone to hate me. You're going to like me. Whether I like you or not, you're going to like me.
Yep.
Right.
Which has been something that I've had to work on for a long time, a couple years now. My parents have been really amazing and incredible and wise with that. Just being like, okay, Lily, what's going on? Like, you're not being honest. And I'm like, I'm fine.
Well,
and I know you're not.
we're like all different because of a different fear. So like you said that your fear is like to upset
not having
right?
peace,
not keeping the peace, right?
Yeah.
Like want everybody to be peaceful, want everybody to be good. My fear a lot of times is to not clearly communicate. Like I get really frustrated at miscommunication, so I am probably perceived as annoying to people because I want it to be clear. Like I want everything to be. I want to make sure I did my part. So in friendships, a lot of times I'm like I'm clearly communicating,
right?
But I'm frustrating them because I just hurt their feelings, or maybe they didn't know about themselves, and I did deliver that in the right way. And I think that we all are the way that we are because I mean that goes kind of back to the Enneagram too, of like we have motivations and we have fears.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think that we learn a lot about each other when we talk about it, right? Because a lot of times when you're in conflict in that moment, right? When you're with somebody who you're like, you're not the same, you don't want to, you don't want to know their why. You don't want to know why they're handling this way. You want to know that they're wrong and you're right.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's so
It's like y'all are literally like, yeah, we both wanted to. Right?
And we wanted to, and then we were both losers.
Like, ooh, now
then it was like
wrong too. So
I can't talk to her today.
But we just like in that moment, we don't want to be solution minded. And I think that a lot of times with friendships, I've learned this a lot in my friendships. Me and Maddie K talk about this a lot because we have worked together for so long. We are best friends. When you talk about y'all calling and talking for a long time and solving the world's problems, when Maddie and I call, it can never be longer. Or it can never be shorter than like an hour or two. Because that you just have those people, right?
You can't hang up.
Literally, we are so polar opposite. And she's taught me so much about how to change my tone and how to see other perspectives. And I think that you have to want, like when you're pursuing friendships, so I know we were talking about friendships. A lot of people are listening thinking, okay, I want friends, or I'm struggling with my friends, or I have these friends, but they're terrible, or whatever it is, right? It's like you have to first be able to look in the mirror and work on you. What can I do? I struggle with that a lot. We all do.
We do.
Yeah. Everybody's affirming because we're like,
no, it's true.
100%.
It is.
But like looking at yourself and being willing to do those things that you're weak in. And with friendships though, also being able to have courageous conversations.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that there's a lot of times where with our culture we're so afraid to upset people that we back away from having a conversation the right way.
Yes.
You know? There's a right and wrong way. Caroline and I might lean a little bit the wrong way. We're a little
sometimes every
we
now
can
and
be
then.
a little aggressive, you know, but it's also not good to never have the conversation.
No, you're so right.
Because somebody might not know that they're being perceived that way. And so I think that's really huge. Have y'all ever had to have like a moment, like a courageous friendship conversation? Like, has that ever had to happen? Y'all are probably like, no.
Yes. Actually.
Oh, tell us about it. Tell us about it.
So I had this friend in high school, and we had been friends since we were born. Like we had a picture, but we also lived in the same town. So it's like me and Liv, but like in Virginia,
but like in the same town.
and best friends. Like our moms were friends since before we were born. All the things. We were homeschooled together, whole deal. And she got crazy, and I had to be like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And this friendship, it's turning into something that I can't do anymore. So I sat her down. Guys, this was
big for
crazy
you.
season for me.
Seriously.
I took my mom, I took her mom, I took her, and we sat down. And I said, hey, sis, I need to separate
I love when you
from
say sis.
I said that. I said I need to separate myself from this friendship. It's not you, it's the friendship, and I need to step away from it.
Hard.
That's it was hard and it was crazy, but it was so confrontational, guys. It was crazy.
Do you think what came out of that was worth the conversation?
Yes.
Good.
I think
That's
a break, and we're still not friends, and that's okay. She's doing her own thing. I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
I see her sometimes, and I just love her because that's what I'm called to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes you have to have those hard conversations where it's like, ooh, we are best friends.
Absolutely.
But like, hey sis, like I have to step away. I had to do it twice actually.
And like that was your call, like your calling or maybe conviction. Like I think that if you have the Holy Spirit inside of you and you're navigating, like walking with the Lord.
100%.
I've learned a lot in friendships and in relationships and in marriage.
Right.
That all of the things.
Everything.
That my conviction might not be somebody else's conviction.
That's
Come on.
hard to learn.
It is.
It's true.
It's very
Caroline's
hard to
like,
learn.
yeah.
It is because a lot of us too, that like want to tell the world everything and solve all the problems. Like I want to be like, oh, if I just tell you, I'll solve it.
Exactly.
That's not how it works, right?
Yeah.
But I've walked through a couple of friendships that I've been really frustrated about things that I've been convicted about in myself, but I want it to extend to them.
Yeah.
Like I want them to also do it.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, that is something that the Lord had for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a way that the Lord was developing me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually can't control them. And it's not even my job
control.
to.
Exactly.
You know, like,
Right.
we were talking about that today too.
Yeah.
But like, that's not even my role. And so just
Absolutely.
learning that of like, that was what you needed to
Absolutely.
do. And obviously it worked out. It was where it needed to be.
Absolutely.
I will even say, like, that is incredible, and that is something I wish, coming from a side of I didn't do that, and when I ran from it,
that's hard.
it was worse.
It
was messy. It was more hurtful. It was confusing on both ends. I should have had because I had moved schools. I was going to move schools, and the day I went to go tour a new school, I didn't tell a soul. I said I was sick.
Okay.
I literally wanted to disappear and then go away forever. I didn't want to have to say a word. And I didn't have that conversation with that person. And to this day, it's still hurtful. There's no closure. And that's forever. You know, and that's something. And I can't just go back and be like, hey, so remember that time? That door has shut. You know, and the Lord gave me closure and hopefully her closure in ways that I will never know, in ways that the Lord has done in me. But I will say, I realize how important it is on this end. You know, there's just so much, and the Lord, I ended up having to tell people I was leaving because of whole difference. I literally wanted to just disappear. That was what
a really hard season.
I didn't, because I knew nobody would be happy for me. I knew nobody would be okay with that. And that was just a whole different journey. Nothing we're talking about right now necessarily, but there was just a lot of things. And again, the Lord grew me in ways. When I got there was so many things that, you know, I was never good at school, and the Lord completely reversed that within me, and it was just a completely different thing.
And that's what he had for you, right?
Absolutely.
He had you
different
called
journey,
to a different place.
Absolutely.
But in that transition is when we learn a lot about how to navigate those situations.
And I missed it on that one. I missed it.
We all have missed it.
Multiple times.
It's not like, you know, it's like, we all had a million stories of how that's happened, but 100%. I love how you are even challenging yourself to be like, that is not like me to have that conversation, and I learned that, and next time I'm gonna do it.
Now you know.
Be better. Yeah, totally.
Well, and going back to like our core beliefs, mine is to be loved.
Yes.
I'm gonna be loyal to you, and I want you to love that. If I'm not loved, I've got nothing. And so with those things, nobody was gonna be happy for me.
So you were like,
and so I was like, I won't say anything, and then I don't even have to know you're upset. I don't even have to know that, you know. And you know, there came with texts and hurt and multiple things, but again, the Lord brings healing, and the Lord challenges you. And so now going on, I will handle those situations very differently, and I can already see in areas where it's like changing, and I'm already better at conversations and giving heads up at a time and with all the things, and you know, the Lord has helped me navigate through that. But it is so true, you know, you learn either with a victory or a loss. You know, that there are things then you can learn from other people. You know,
absolutely,
it's a great time. If you're out there and you're getting some closure, I would say have the conversation. 10 out of 10 times courageous conversation for sure.
But that's why I just love the Enneagram. It is just such a tool.
Absolutely.
And while we're speaking about it, I don't want it to seem like we are like labeling ourselves.
Yes, I do.
Putting ourselves in a box. Like, it is a tool. And we have to put a Christian spin on it and be like, okay, what does God say about this? It's definitely
don't use it as a crutch.
No, it's not I'm a 9, so you have to be nice to me because my core is peace.
Oh, come on.
Oh, right. It's so
that's
true.
The
world will
stop that. I don't want anyone to think that's what we're saying. It is such a tool.
So against culture today, though, because everybody uses everything as a crutch.
Absolutely.
You know?
Oh, babe, you can't say that to me. I'll get my feelings hurt.
Sure.
Okay.
Don't get your feelings hurt.
Sharpens iron, babe. Yeah. Maybe you need a little bit of that.
Yes, that's why I just love the Enneagram.
No, you're so right, Lily.
I love it.
So good.
Because now I get to figure out how you work right off the bat. And I'll be like, okay, great. So
it's one of my favorite things.
Some parts about a 6. Okay, let's figure that out. Let's figure out how it works. Okay, you went back to that. it's because of this, it's because of this. I can just figure y'all out.
Absolutely.
That way, all my friendships have been so much deeper since knowing you.
Yes.
I know your core. I know how to speak to you. Same with love languages. I love asking the question when I meet someone, what's your love language? Like, okay, physical touch, I'll give you 5 hugs every time I see you. You know what I mean? Just like trying to figure out how to make people feel loved and special and seen, and how to communicate with them. Because I'm not I'm not going to communicate to Liv the same I'm going to communicate to Caroline. Right. You're more direct. And I'm going to put a bow on yours. I'm not going to put a bow on yours.
Please
Caroline.
don't.
I'm not going to. But I would, and I want that. But I'm not going to do that for you because that's not, because you're not me, and we're different.
Exactly.
You're
and
so right.
but so I wanted to clarify.
Well, and that's like what friendship is like
absolutely
doing, like learning how to do what other people need, right?
Yes.
Because I think that if you think your friendships are about you, then that's when it gets really hard. Because you want everyone to accommodate to you. You want everybody to read your mind. I don't know if we've ever had moments as girls. It happens.
Right.
We're upset
all the time.
We don't want to talk about it, but we want our best friends to know exactly what's wrong. And you're like frustrated, or like with your, if you have a boyfriend, like with my husband, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to say anything, and I want him to know exactly what's wrong.
All the time.
Get me started.
All the time.
But it's crazy.
I can't read your mind, Lily. I can't. Why not? Please just read my mind.
Okay, this is a different rabbit trail. But that's another thing, like with friendships versus relationships, how important both of them are. Like Ethan, my husband, equally as important as Lily Rawls in my life. You know what I mean? Like treasuring that, because she is going, I can have a different conversation with her than I can with him. And like Lily can read my mind a little bit different than even
and
Ethan
they fill
could.
those roles, right?
Absolutely.
And it's going back to expectations.
Absolutely.
Of like, you don't expect Ethan to be able to do something maybe that Lily might could do. And I think that whenever you're in relationship, which I love that we're talking about now, kind of relationships too, and friendships, like everything, well, really, when you're navigating life with the Lord, it's the Bible is constantly throwing a mirror in our face. And there's constantly having us look. It's humbling,
true.
truly.
So
really is. Please put the mirror down. I don't want to look at that. But really, though, it's a constant. If we're doing relationships the right way, you know, the way Jesus did everything was centered around other people. It was never about himself, and he had the most excuse to be
literally.
You know, and so with your friendships, learning the Enneagram, that's learning how they are wired. And the Enneagram really challenged me because if you ever met a 3, we are a little, we kind of think that we're the best. We're a little prideful. And so I really had to learn, like, I'm not the best. Like, my personality, the way that my personality responds to stuff is not the best. Like, every single personality type, everyone has something to bring to the table. And that's why we are made so differently. And the scripture about, like, the hand can't want to be the foot. We can't, you know, we all have to actually operate in our strengths so that we can function well. But, like, I love Liv, how you just connected that to relationships, which I want to talk about that. I want to dive into that. So, yes, I know. Claps for Liv.
Thank you. I was just clapping because, like, friendship, we killed that.
You did.
You're welcome.
Really did. We're going to talk about that.
Learn from our mistakes and goodies.
Yes. Okay, well, let's dive into relationships a little bit. Let's talk about boys.
It's my favorite topic.
One of my favorite topics, I'll say it.
I just said it.
Well, let's dive in a little bit. How do you know, which I know that Liv, I've heard you talk about relationships before with the running and looking to see who's running with you. How do you know if you're in a relationship or if you're even looking? Like what to look for? What is like deal breaker? What is something that's like big deal? Go take it.
Don't get me on my
tell us.
So actually I have talked the past like 2 years at Turkey Day to the girls in the relationship talk. And a lot of it is just that, you know, we, a little bit of me and Ethan's story. I don't know if you guys care. You can skip through the next 20 minutes. Just kidding. But just a little speed. We met at camp. We were our year before our JCT year, so 7th graders, 8th graders, whatever we were, fetuses. Babies. Met then, and then we didn't date that year. We were friends, on and off, dates, you know, all the things.
I remember that season.
It was super fun. So fun.
So fun.
It was really fun, and it was sweet, and it was youth and all the things. Then did a whole summer where we were not together. I think it was like our graduate summer, but I was kind of an AC that year, and he came. I went week 1. Me and Lil graduated. I was in AC. Did things a little different. And then Ethan graduated, I think, week 8. Came to camp that last week 8. Graduated then. And then after that, I was on a beach trip with my friend. And I was like, you know who I haven't talked to in so long? Ethan. And so I obviously called him, and then that went from, because I was just like, kind of miss that guy. So I called him, and then we were just friends for a while, and then I was waiting till he got his driver's license. We lived an hour away, so he was in Little Rock, I was in Hot Springs for a while, so that's an hour and some change.
License saga.
Oh Lord, I don't even want to get into it. Ethan gets on a rant about it. It's all blurry for me. It's a little bit more heartfelt for him, but basically December 19th of 2021 is when Ethan got his like official driver, like he can drive legally. He didn't like get it then, but you know all the stuff that legally, blah, blah, blah. So he got that, and then he took me on a cute little date, and apparently he would be so embarrassed if I told y'all this. He took his mom on the route that he was gonna take me.
Stop.
So like she showed him where to go, so he didn't use his maps, and like they practiced.
Wait, that's
where
really
to
sweet.
drive.
I did not know that.
Did you not? I don't tell many people.
That's so Ethan.
So like his mom, like, and then his mom told my mom, and she was like, "Listen, how sweet this is. He drove me here, and then practiced going here, and then drove to this location. Adorable.
He didn't want to use maps.
He didn't want to use Google Maps because apparently that's embarrassing.
Apparently,
I use Google Maps.
It's not.
Whatever.
It's not.
Adorable thing. Anyway, so we did that, and then he asked me out, and we've been together since that day, which is bonkers, but it's been so much fun. And all of that to say, since we started like dating in high school, all the things, you know, and the people I mostly talk to are in high school, beginning of college. Those relationships are supposed to be fun.
Come on.
Right.
It's not drama. It's not supposed to be. And with Ethan, it was easy. It was fun. And with the Lord, a little tidbit too, he's not confusing. We don't serve a confusing God. You know, God is very clear in what he says. And you know, where one door opens, you walk through it. You know, and with your prayers, and God might shut a door, and then that's okay. Then where's the next door? You know, and obviously that's I've simplified that a lot. But you know, God's not a confusing God. And so with relationships, with everything, it was fun. It was easy. I went to his football games, and so many doors opened within that relationship. We ended up going to the same school our senior year, and the Lord, and I prayed since I was young. I always knew I didn't want to go to college. I had all these college ventures that I wanted to have just because everybody else talked about it, but I never actually wanted to go.
Right.
And I just prayed. I was like, God, I need someone. I want to get married young. My parents got married young. I want to get married young. I want to be a wife. That was just my prayer since I was a tiny person. And so I had my wedding plan since I was like second grade. You know, me and Lily talked about it every single day.
That's when we called
all of the things. And so I prayed that, and the Lord opened that door. And so with Ethan, it was easy. It was an answered prayer. Ethan was an answered prayer to me. I could cry thinking about him. I just love him so much. He's my best friend in the whole world. Really but sweet. You know, like it wasn't confusing. It was easy. And so obviously we didn't like date throughout college or anything like that. So I don't have much advice on that particularly, which I'm sure all of you guys do. But starting out in all of those things, like it was easy. It was the Lord. And it wasn't confusing, you know, and I'm sure a lot of other thoughts will pop up from but that's the core of my 30-day talk is, you know, the relationship isn't supposed to be, is it him? Is he the one? You know, the Lord, when Ethan didn't choose football, I knew the Lord had opened the door of marriage, you know, when he wasn't going to college, when that wasn't a thing. And then the Lord opened our careers for us. And then the Lord opened a home for us. And then, you know, it just happened, and it was easy. It wasn't confusing. And obviously there were difficult things within that navigating. So that I'm simplified that a whole lot. But, you know,
podcast version,
10-minute version, you know, there were things to navigate. But our morals lined up, where our direction was lined up, all our beliefs, the core. You know, there were conflicts with it. Me and Ethan are very different people, but you know, at its core, it was easy. It was fun. So
okay, well, let's talk about like morals. Let's talk about the baseline, because I feel like we are in a culture where a lot of lines are blurred.
Okay.
That's true.
We talk actually about staff, you know, where the integrity line, I feel like, is constantly being lowered. It's under attack. And when you're navigating relationships, that can become very detrimental. When you allow a lot into that, you know. And so how do y'all navigate, let's just talk about this, setting boundaries or, you know, creating some kind of like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And if it's not in that, this can be in any season. Like I had a really hard time navigating this when I was single, because I wanted to date this guy who totally wasn't those things, you know. And it's like you're having to decide, like, okay, do I really care about this a lot? Or, like, you know, how do y'all navigate that? And which I know your relationship with Cooper, Lil, you could talk about that, but even Caroline, like, how do y'all navigate setting those expectations or boundaries? Or y'all are like, you go, jump onto it.
Okay, well, my relationship's a little bit different because me and Cooper are long distance.
Come on.
So
long
we
distance.
did our first year of long distance this year, and it was crazy. But I love the mindset that Liv has with her relationship, and she's taught me so much through her. It's just like, dating is supposed to be fun.
Absolutely.
And it is supposed to be just like you're learning about the person. You're just living your life. And that takes so much stress off of it and takes a lot of worry off of me. And it just kind of, you know, it's just like you're holding out your hands. You're just like, God, take it. Like, just God, like, open up the doors, open up this. But yeah, so I've been very blessed. And God is amazing. And Cooper's amazing.
That's
and
awesome.
our long distance this year was crazy. But we've definitely had to set some different boundaries through this year. It definitely looks different, I think, than if we were together. But one big boundary that we can talk about, me and Cooper don't read the Bible together, which is crazy. Spiritual boundary is a big one for me.
Absolutely.
And it was crazy at the beginning of our relationship last year. He was like, hey, can I pray for you? Like over the phone. And I was like, okay. And he did it. And my heart was like, that felt weird. That didn't feel like,
and that's not an attack on him.
No way.
Absolutely not.
It's a personal boundary for you.
It was a personal boundary. And it was tugging at my heart, and I felt it. And I was like, so the next morning I woke up and I was shaking because confrontation. And I was like, I'm going to have to tell this guy that I like that I don't want to read the Bible. It sounds so awful. And guys, it sounds so good. Like when you think about it, I read the Bible with my boyfriend. We love the Lord.
Absolutely.
It sounds beautiful. But like, thinking about it, it's like, we are not one yet.
No.
When you're married, you become one.
That's good.
And that is when you become spiritually one and holy one.
Absolutely.
And God was just telling me, he was like, you need to have your relationship with God. He needs to have his relationship with God. And yes, you know how everyone talks about like the triangle? Yes. But like, it's just, we're dating. It's fun. I can pray for him.
Absolutely.
Right.
We can pray before a meal. But we're not sitting together at a picnic and reading the Bible together. And we talk about what we've learned. Like, hey, what has God been teaching you this last week? Like what? Like, tell me about it. We have those conversations,
I love that.
but we don't pursue the Lord in the oneness that I think is set apart for marriage.
Totally.
That's
and I think
so
that's
good.
boundaries. I think that when you are looking at boundaries, which obviously I love that, you know, boundaries are not just physical boundaries, there's emotional boundaries, there's spiritual boundaries. And the reason why we have boundaries is not to be the fun police. It's just not. Like,
you're so right.
That's
so good.
Well, okay, if I'm just being honest, being a teacher this year has really changed my perspective on a lot of things. And I see a lot more of the Lord's heart in protecting us, which is very interesting because with my students, I'm like, we're not doing this because in my brain, I know what that leads to. Like, I know the destruction that happens if we allow kids to wrestle. It leads to fighting. It leads to black eyes and punches and tears, you know? And so for the Lord as our Heavenly Father, He is giving us the manual that's the Bible to navigate and say, I know what all of this stuff leads to. You and Cooper aren't engaged. You're not married. So to expand on your boundaries is expanding on the possibility of being hurt, you know, having, because if we're being honest, I feel like girls everywhere are struggle with those emotional boundaries, right? I've had plenty of guy relationships in my life, maybe even just a friendship, that the emotional boundaries have been crossed, wasn't for that relationship. I think one Turkey Day we talked about like, call your relationship what it is.
I love it. I love
so like, if you have a guy friend, he's your guy friend. Right. You don't do boyfriend things with your guy friend.
So true.
Oh, Liv. She's got something.
I'm really into that move lately. That's what I was gonna say. You changed my life because that's a big bold statement. But you did I want to get back on spiritual boundaries because I feel like it's not talked about enough.
It's not.
But to hit with me and Ethan, you had said, I think it was the very first like Turkey Day we were talking about. You were on the panel, and you said what you don't do when you're in a friendship with a guy. You don't do what dating people do or say. When you are in when you're dating, you don't do what engaged people do.
It's true.
When you're engaged, you don't do what married people do. You know, and that right there defined everything. So then you don't have to ask any questions of how far too far and what if
so
we
what about
talking
this?
stage.
No.
Well, we're talking.
What if
This
we're
is
in the
technically
we might be talking. It's complicated.
We're
it's
talking,
no.
and that's basically marriage.
Not.
So you
It's
know,
not complicated.
talking could equal marriage.
Right.
You know, it's just not like what it
Crazy.
was. So when we were dating, that's what we did. And like, I knew you were about to say it, so I just had to say like,
yes,
but that
it's
just
so true.
going and I love because spiritual boundaries aren't talked about, and it actually was a weird transition for me.
Yeah.
When we got engaged,
Yeah.
we went to marriage counseling, and it was like,
Start
okay,
talking about these things that
You
you're
have to
like
pray
we-
together. You're like, we get to read the Bible
the
together.
first time we
like,
prayed
what?
together was mega awkward. we were like, should we hold hands? And so I was like, you pray first.
I'll close.
And he
I'll
was like,
close.
are you sure? And then
That's
he's like,
so funny.
dear God.
also like
No, it is.
This is awkward in itself.
It was this uncomfortable. It was more, I swear. And I was like, my fiance and I are praying together. And then I was like, God, bless us. But it was like, but now, like, I was sobbing about it the other day. Before me and Ethan have started, before we go to bed, we have always prayed since like day one.
Sure.
But now we've started to incorporate the Bible. Ethan reads us a chapter out of a book we don't really know. We just did Colossians.
Whoa.
Didn't know hardly any of that book. But I was just sobbing because I was like, it was so easy. It was so intimate. And it was something I was so grateful the Lord hadn't opened that door yet because it's even sweeter now. And it's protection. It's not the fun police. It's protection. Like right now, it's even more incredible than it ever would have been dating, you know, and I'm glad that how it went. So anyway, it didn't mean to get on a soapbox.
Yeah, that's
that
good.
But like it's so good, and I think that there's also a lot to say about if there have been lines crossed. There, it's not that they're crossed. Oh, boo-hoo.
Absolutely,
that's
so
not
right.
it.
Yeah.
The story of the prodigal son has been, I think, living in all of our heads this summer.
Absolutely.
Jason's been talking about it a
Yeah.
lot, and I think that we also have to couple that with God is also he's a protector,
Always.
but he also always redeems and welcomes us
So
home
grace.
and frees us because I could literally go through so many different like relationships where just emotional boundaries have crossed and there were consequences for that, but also God is good. Like
exactly,
he like redeems he redeems situations and pulls people through. So there's that, but I think that that always it falls back on expectations.
Wow.
And
you keep saying that's true.
But it's like, what are your expectations of this relationship?
Yeah, I love that.
If you have this guy friend, what do you expect him to do?
Right.
Because a lot of times, if you've ever read, I always say it, you got to read the book Soul Care. David got me on it. And changed my life.
I read it this year.
It's literally life changing.
Yeah.
There's a chapter that talks a little bit about like symptoms. So like you have these symptoms in your life. They're not like physical symptoms, but they're just kind of like emotional or spiritual symptoms that pop up that it like makes you think, ooh, something's going on in my heart. Like something's kind of off here. And so with your relationships, you can feel yourself getting frustrated or yourself being hurt, and maybe it's not somebody hurt you. Now it could be. That's not what we're talking about. Right. But it's like, oh, they hurt my feelings, or especially with boys. Like I remember, I'm trying to go back to like 16. 16, 17-year-old period where you're just like, well, they left me on red, or they were hanging out with so and so, and they were supposed to hang out with me.
Brutal.
And you know what I mean. And it's like, what are your expectations though?
Right.
Like, are you expecting them to be your boyfriend and follow you around everywhere?
Right.
You know, like is that what it is? You know, and when you're dating, y'all probably know this. Like, are you expecting them to be your fiance or your husband right now? Are you expecting, or are they just your boyfriend? And our expectations are a little bit off and whatever, but. That's relationships. Does anyone have anything to add? I know that was a lot of good stuff, but or like questions, thoughts. I mean, I feel like that was.
I want to hear Caroline's. Point
I was
of
about
view
to say,
from
because are you currently dating someone?
I am not.
Okay, go. Okay.
Yeah. So I am not a big dater. I have dated 2 people, and I like. My friends love to tease that I'm too picky. And
standards.
They're not incorrect sometimes, but I have just never been like, okay, I want to go on a million dates.
Right.
I will go on them. Like if a guy asks, I'm not going to say no because I don't think that's fair. Like I maybe will say no to the second one, but the first one I'll say yes.
Yeah, right.
But no, I think I've learned a lot. I mean, my roommate is engaged and getting married.
Wow.
My other one is in a relationship that they were friends since forever and are dating. And then my other one is single with me, and we love it, and we tease about it all the time because we are their children. Is pretty much
You're like, mom and dad, totally.
Love
yes.
that.
But no, I have honestly loved being single most of my college. Like I have gone on dates with guys, and I've learned, okay, like he is a great guy, but that is not what I'm looking for.
I love that.
Because y'all kept talking about it needs to be easy and it needs to be fun.
Yes.
And I think that's what I've learned is like, okay, I've been on 1 or 2 dates with you and I'm bored. And it's nothing wrong with you. Like you are the sweetest, like very gentleman. Like there's nothing wrong. It's just I'm not having fun. And I have struggled, like when my roommate was in the middle of dating her now fiance, I really struggled. I was like, I'm sick of being single. Like this is annoying. I'm bored. I was bored because all of my, I mean, they're all getting engaged right now. I'm not kidding. Like next summer is going to be the summer of weddings for me.
I love that.
But like I genuinely learned the contentment in being single.
I love it.
And like I was dating someone earlier this year, like literally right before camp, and we broke up, and it was just because like I was overwhelmed in the relationship and like I wasn't having fun and I was stressed out, and I was like, that's not right.
That's not
It didn't feel right.
Like I'm even like away from you. I'm not even like at the same school at this point. It's summer and I'm stressed out. And it was nothing he is doing. It was just the fact that like, I mean, I genuinely think it was the Lord saying, okay, not it. And so because I've become so secure in my relationship, like with the Lord and who I am on my own, that like saying, okay, this relationship needs to end was not like detrimental.
It wasn't the end.
It was just like,
that was not what your value.
No, it was not at all. It was just kind of like, okay, like that's okay. You can be sad because like we had become like friends.
You lost
and like that friendship is definitely like it was a closed door, but it was okay because I knew that the Lord was closing that for me.
I love that.
And like I've seen this summer even just like, oh, I was gonna be very busy, and that relationship was not gonna be a success if I was still in it. And so no, finding contentment was hard when all my friends were like, okay, I'm gonna marry the person I'm dating. And I was like, okay,
you're like,
I'm not going on second dates. Like, but like I genuinely have learned, okay, there are other things that I can put like effort into. Like I've become way more plugged in with my church and volunteering and working there. And so I genuinely like boundaries. Like, I mean, right now they're not really a huge issue, but like my friends and I talk about like, okay, these are boundaries though that like when I'm in a relationship, don't let me cross them.
Right.
Have that accountability.
Yeah.
So
Accountability
is the biggest thing with friends. Totally. But no.
Yeah.
Well, you said something it was really, really huge just now about being confident enough
in
your relationship with the Lord. And I think that's what is a constant struggle. Is just your confidence. In yourself and I've actually talked a little about this year of like our confidence it's not confidence in our own abilities. That's
exactly.
Not what God has us
no.
Because when we do that, we get a little prideful and then we mess up and then we feel really bad.
Exactly.
You know, but it's like that confidence that comes from the Lord that's special. So let's talk about that. Let's dive into that. What does that look like for you guys? Where have you guys learned? You know, my confidence is not in me, or my confidence is not in a relationship, or not in a friendship. It has to be in the Lord.
Lily, I want to hear this from you because we talked so much about how your freshman year you changed so much into a completely different, confident person because you used to be quiet and all the things. So I really want to hear from you first specifically.
Yes. So I, all of middle school and high school struggled really bad with just like, I don't know if I would say anxiety, but just like worry and stress. And I would just walk into a room and I would be like, everyone's watching me. Everyone's watching me. And I was a quiet person. It was stressful. Oh my goodness. It was just stressful, and it was just like for no reason. It was kind of selfish. Honestly, it was a selfish season where I was like, people care about me. No.
Just worried about yourself.
Just lots of worry. Just lots of worry. But yeah, God just really stepped in and was like, hey, it's not that much about you, you know, kind of just humbled me.
Absolutely.
And that, you know what I mean? And then he gave me the confidence through humbling me and just being like, okay, you need to step up into this and be the better version of yourself than you're being right now, because you're not helping anybody or loving anyone around you because you're so focused on yourself. And so it was a big heart change, and I've been a completely different person.
Absolutely.
Like, even my family is like noticeably different. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you knew me as a camper, I was with Olivia. People wouldn't even know that I was with Olivia. It wasn't like Olivia and her friend. It was like Olivia, oh, she has a friend. That's what it was. Like,
No,
you know what I
that's
mean?
not true.
It is true. I was so quiet.
I loved you. You were there. To
I
me.
was a good listener.
You always existed.
I was just a quiet shadow. But yeah, so I just really got just up into that really in high school, at the end of high school. And then I had that friend deal, and I was like, okay, I'm going to live.
Yep.
And then I had that conversation. So just lots of learning and lots of stretching through my personality. That God was like, you're better than this. This is not who I want you to be. I don't want you to be the quiet kid in the corner.
Right.
And if he didn't change me, I wouldn't be here right now as a red t-shirt. I didn't want to be a senior counselor. I was like,
that's crazy.
I'll be an AC because I loved my AC summer because none of the attention was on me. I was the helper. And I was like,
it's crazy.
No one's looking at me to lead wagon songs. No one, like, it was the best. And I was like, I could be an AC every summer. And then I got put in senior counselor, and I was like, if I screw up, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die because all eyes are on me. I'm in a glass box, this whole thing. It's just not the end of the world. And it was just like, I can mess up. People can call me out. People can be blunt with me. People can, you know what I mean? And that was the same thing going back to the personality. I want to sugarcoat everything for anyone else because I don't want that to hurt their feelings. I really didn't want to get my feelings hurt. So if you called me out, or you know what I mean, I was just immature in my personality, that I was like, if you correct me, I'm gonna fall in shambles. Right. I will not pick my pieces back up if you tell me that I need to fix this. So you know what I mean? It was just a lot of little things, like with worry and my insecurities all coming together. But yeah, God has changed. I'm a new person. I'm a new person through the wisdom, through my parents and my friends, and God just was just like, you're so much better than this. Stepped out of that insecurity, and now I'm so just confident in Him. You know what I mean? What were you gonna say, Liv?
Well, I am just hearing both of you have said it, but you know, you talked about contentment and like being where you're at and you're content, and you know, there's a lot of security that comes with contentment in who you are, and then you can let the Lord lead you in what you're doing, and that's something even in this very season I am currently learning is, you know, you can't let the Lord lead anything that you don't believe He can. Right? You know, like you're there for a reason, babe. Like be good with this until I move you on to the next. You know, and in both of you talking, it's so inspiring to me in the place that I'm in, because I can't stop hearing the word contentment. And it's annoying because
God's trying to tell you something.
Exactly. And I hate that a little. I get it. I hear you.
She hears you, guys.
She hears you. I do. But it is through contentment with where you're at and holding your hands like this.
I always say it.
Through contentment, that the Lord can lead you, that He can make you secure in where you're at. And I fully believe that He can't move you on until you're good where you're at.
Come on.
You can't go anywhere that you haven't been. And if I'm not in this season, how can I go to the next? How can I, like, looking through these glasses of this life, you know, like, it's just, it's so cool hearing you guys say that. Because through that, when you finally were like, I love who I am, or I'm good in who I am, through the Lord, obviously. When I say who I am, it means
through the Lord and the Lord alone.
But with who I am and who the Lord has made me to be, now I'm secure in where I am, secure in where He's put me. Now He can take me places.
And with your friends, with your right now friends, with everyone around you.
Because with my relationship, that's the way it was. So then why is it any different with life? You know, I was content where I was. And then the Lord just opened that next door, and He opened that next door. And now where I'm at, it's like, oh, and you're all antsy about like what's next. And I mean, I know you know that, where it's like, oh my gosh, kids are next. And it's like, there's no way.
No,
and it's like,
about that.
I have to be content in marriage before I can be even moved to that season, you know?
Right.
Like, I have to be content in my job before I move to where, you know, or move in your job or wherever it is. Like, if you're always wanting to do the next thing, I think that's something we've seen even about Jet and all of the LCs this year. They're good with where they're at. So we can't wait to see them as leaders next, you know, like just moving them on. And so I think that's something I'm hearing both of you say, and that's a testament to me where I'm at. So
that's cool.
Just thought that was cool.
I love that, and I love what you said, Liv. Like, you can't move on to the next season until you know you finish what you're in right now. And I think that something that I've learned is that, you know, life's gonna go on.
Yes, it is.
It's not like you're gonna be stuck in one season.
Right.
But that discontentment will follow you.
Yes.
And so it's really funny how we trick ourselves to believe, or maybe even just buy into the lie that the enemy is kind of telling us about. Well, when fill in the blank happens, I'll be good. I'll be content then. I'll because for me it was always when I'm in a relationship, I'm gonna be content. When I have really good friends, I'm gonna be content. When I graduate high school and I'm on my own, I'm gonna be content. Then it was called when I graduate college.
There's always something.
It kind of never ends.
No,
it's
it doesn't.
exhausting. And so if we don't, because the enemy would love to keep us in that cycle. If we don't, stop.
Stop.
Right.
Liv loves the hand signs.
I love these right here.
If we don't stop and actually be a little self-aware and figure
Yeah.
out like, okay, I'm discontent.
Yeah.
God, that is stealing the joy that you offer me. Because if we really believe in the fruits of the Spirit, right?
Yep.
God offers us joy. Like
Yeah.
He
does.
does joy in anything. If you read the Bible, there are disciples in prison.
Yeah.
Literally.
They have joy and they
Yeah.
are worshiping and telling about Jesus. So we have access to something, but are we gonna choose that?
Yes.
Are we gonna allow that to come into our lives?
Yeah.
Because that really is something
Absolutely.
that's hard. It's hard to do.
It
It's hard to be
is.
self-aware. It really is.
And David always says that with your perspective. Like you could leave a hard season and be like, that was awful. I'm so glad I wanted,
so right.
Yeah.
Like,
you can be real. You can be honest
Yes.
about it. But
like
totally.
it's
How do you
growing.
see it?
Turn around and be like, that was such a crazy, like I learned so much.
Absolutely.
So your perspective,
Absolutely.
your choice, all that.
What were you gonna say, Caroline?
Well, you keep saying self-aware, and I think that was one of the biggest things I had to learn my freshman year of college. And like honestly, probably my sophomore and my junior year, because it's a never-ending. Okay, am I actually like looking at myself and thinking, oh, maybe I'm the problem.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Because
that's so hard.
my roommate and I live almost flawlessly together.
How to figure it out.
Like I've known her since 5th grade. I practically lived at her house every Thursday night of senior year. But then we struggled when we had to move in with seatmates and actually coexist together.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, it's my other roommate's fault. It's always her. She's the messy one. She's the this. And at the exact same time, I was being told she felt the same way towards me.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I finally looked in the mirror one day and was like, oh,
yeah, right.
But like, I did not want to. She is also very okay with confrontation, and that for some reason freaked me out. I was like, "Oh, someone's gonna bite back." Oh no!
That's so interesting.
I live in a world where a lot of people don't bite back at me, and or it's like, okay, yeah, like it's a lot more common. Neither of us are that way.
Sure.
But it like was the most like refreshing conversation after I self-evaluated. And was like, okay, this is what I brought to the table. And I think I've learned a lot this summer of taking ownership of my area is all of my senior counselors' areas are also my areas. And like taking ownership. Okay, I didn't set that up well enough. And I did. And so learning how to do that was really hard. And I think honestly that whole relationship and like navigating getting over ourselves was the big thing.
Yeah. That's great. Oh my gosh. We could talk forever.
As we could.
I mean, we
we literally probably have. I don't even want to know.
I don't even want to know how long.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for joining us. We hope you listen. Life, Legacy, and Leadership. Girl
So
Talk
good.
again.
Every day, all day. With the girls.
With the girls.
Love it.
All right. Hey. That's the closing of it.
Liv singing.
That
was so good.
Y'all.
That was so good.
That
Y'all
was
said so many
If you
amazing
didn't walk in, I think we would have kept going.